Hey, what's going on, everybody? If you are looking for different ways where you can guarantee that a prospect will opt into your webinar page and stay on the webinar from the beginning to the very end, then this is the video for you. So let's check it out. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Terrence Walton from terrencewalton.com. And as I mentioned, we are going to talk today about three different webinar strategies that will guarantee your prospect retention. So what I mean by that is I've actually had a good bit of people come to me and ask me just various questions about webinars and how they work and how effective, an instrument they can be. So I figured I would, just throw this blog post and video, out and hopefully help, any other people who have the same type of questions. So let's just jump right into it. So, the reason I wanted to do this is because I'm sure as, entrepreneurs, online marketers, network marketers, there's come a time when you've decided to use webinars as a marketing strategy. And, I know just from my personal experience, I remember doing my first webinar. I sent links out and everything, and I know now I didn't properly market for the webinar. But what happened on the day of the webinar, I had so many technical difficulties just using I forget whichever webinar software, but more importantly, my attendees. I may have sent out 50 thinking I would have a huge turnout, but what happened is I had two people who were my friends, so they were doing it out of guilt most likely, and they didn't even last the entire webinar. So my two people fell off within about 15 minutes, and it was a 60-minute webinar. So let's talk about different ways where you can prevent this. So you can set up your webinar in the proper way where people are just excited to opt in and register for your webinar, and they are extremely excited to stay on, but stay on all the way to the end. So let's hop right into it. Let's talk about these three marketing strategies. So the first is something I call interruption marketing. So this is, if you're at the mall or you're at the supermarket, and, we always have our phones. So checking out your phones, looking at emails, and all of a sudden you may, get an email, you click on it, and lo and behold, boom, you click on it, click link, takes you straight to a sales video. Now, was that your intention? When you went to the mall or the supermarket, were you going there to look at a sales video? No. So in all likelihood, you're going to click off that immediately. So the retention rate for that method, the interruption method, is horrendous. At least 90% plus people will click off because they have no interest. So in contrast to that method, what I've found is what is most important to people, whatever is most important to you, you're going to schedule it. You're going to put it on your calendar. So when you're marketing your webinar and people register and you start to get a huge number of people registering, that's because you've created the proper amount of value to that marketplace. So now you have people in a state where they're excited. And now they are registering because registering for your webinar is now going to put this event on their calendar. And from that point, your rate of retention for that person going there. Now, you want to make sure you're marketing for your webinar at least 3 days before. Anything prior to that, the retention rate is gonna hurt you. People will drop off if you're marketing before 3 days. So make sure you keep that in mind. So next, we're going to talk about what is called a heightened audience. So in a heightened audience, what you have is you have people who have decided your webinar is extremely important to them. So now they put that scheduled event on their calendar. So now, just to kind of give you an example of what that means to you, let's use this example of, maybe going to a wedding. If you're going to a wedding, and, I guess it does happen where people just say, hey, you know what, in about 2 hours I'm getting married, can you be there? it probably wouldn't work out too well. But if you're having a wedding, you're planning it and you're sending out invitations and people are responding, they're RSVPing. So now your wedding is on people's calendars. So people will be able to show up, at the right time, the right event with their present. Boom. There's your scheduled event, and that is a result of having a heightened audience. You can look at another example of a movie. I just had a date night with my wife. It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. What are we doing, babes? Let's go to the movies. Okay. Here, we have a 7:30 movie. Went online, I bought the tickets. We were able to schedule that event. We were at the movies on time, saw the previews, everything, no issues. So this is what you want. You want to be able to market to that heightened audience. So once they start to register for your webinar, heightened audience, you're going in the right direction. So next, the third webinar strategy is just having a captive audience. So what happens here is they've gone through, the first two steps. They're just primed to hear this webinar. So if you've got anywhere between a 60 to 90-minute webinar and you're giving great value, you're going to be able to get, your attendees, and have them become that captive audience. And once they're there, you will actually have them in a very strong state of emotion. So that's going to be very powerful for them staying from beginning to end, because they've been excited to hear this information. And what happens is they're going to buy. When they're in that state of emotion at the end of that webinar, they are going to buy at the end of that webinar. If they don't buy, you want to make sure everyone who's attended, if they have any questions, give them your contact information so they can reach out to you with any questions. Now, if they don't buy and they reach out to you with any questions, 9 times out of 10, it'll be 1 or 2 questions that are very simple, and then they're going to buy right then and there. So, just to give you, a little bit of information on this. So hopefully these 3 webinar strategies in regards to prospect retention, have helped you. And if so, feel free to like, comment, or share. Or if you feel someone else could benefit from this, feel free to tag them as well. But as always, thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.